Hi, my name is Dakota Fisher. I'm here today to talk about Radical Recovery Peer Support. It's a great new support group program developed under my small business, Community and Peer Services. It's for anybody who's experiencing difficult situations, feeling unwell, maybe they've experienced some trauma in the past, maybe they just want to focus on personal growth and live the life they want to live. A little bit about me. I work for Mental Health Partnerships, and it's a Philadelphia-based company. We teach peer support certification training, among other things, but I focus on the peer support certification. I'm an Army veteran. I'm also in my Master's of Business Administration program at Bloomsburg University. I really hope that you can get some good information today about this program and that you'll be excited to join us. So what's in this video today? Today we're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to talk about why a person would want to participate in the program. We're going to talk about why a person would want to become a facilitator of this program. That means basically you're supporting and leading the group. It's not really a leadership position. You're just there to help people participate in the group. Facilitation is not a leadership role. We'll be sharing some information about various concepts of the program. The concepts we'll be sharing today are actually called the parallel recovery concepts. There are 3 different concepts that we can use in conjunction with the other steps of the program to really take our recovery to greater heights. We'll also be sharing some inspirational passages developed by Craig Gregorio Lewis that encourage thoughtfulness and introspection. So why would a person want to participate in this group? This group provides a safe place to create social connections, share our experiences, collaborate on wellness strategies, and receive encouragement from people who have experienced similar situations as we have. I think that alone is a good enough reason to join the group. But what are some other reasons why we might want to join the group? A lot of us have people in our lives that try to drag us down, make us feel worth less than they are, demean us, degrade us, belittle us. And in the end, how do we know that we're on track and that we're doing what we need to do for ourselves? Well, this group examines the concepts and the fundamentals of recovery that can help us know that we're doing what we need to do to live the life we want to live. We also examine growth in recovery. I've heard many times that growth is non-linear, that there's setbacks and obstacles that we'll face that will take us off the path to growth and can make our growth look any kind of way. But at the same time, that might be how growth seems to be in the beginning of recovery. It might be all over the place. But as we continue in recovery and we gain resilience, we begin to have growth that is more linear or even exponential. So our group, we talk about the linear growth model. Now, a model is just a model. It's not a promise or a fact. But the linear growth model explains that while we focus on the concepts and fundamentals of this group, we experience growth that becomes more linear, where our setbacks don't take us back further than where we started, and that our growth becomes more in line with the efforts that we put in. We found that the nonlinear nature of growth and the discussion of it is actually more discouraging for people in recovery. People in recovery usually want to know, I'm going to get this if I do this. But calling growth nonlinear and saying that it can be all over the place and unpredictable is not something that is reassuring to a person in recovery. We also believe that a person receiving wellness services may be one of the best people to provide those services in the future. A person who's experienced similar situations to other people has a much better chance of creating mutuality and trust with another person. Also, we believe that while we're in recovery and while we're participating in programs like Radical Recovery Peer Support, we have a lasting impact on the other people in the group or in recovery as a whole. What I'm talking about is really the basis for peer support. If you think about it, all peer support is a person with lived experience supporting another person with a similar experience. So while we participate in these groups, we have an opportunity to make an impact on other people, and even when we don't think we are, we are. That's why we don't just focus on wellness tools and information in this group. We also spend a lot of time talking about mentorship and how to be a great peer supporter. Getting the information about peer support and mentorship from this group is a great way to open the door to a career in peer support. In a little bit, we're going to talk about why you want to be a facilitator of this group. But right now, we're going to get into some of the information that's provided in the group, some of the inspirational passages, and some of the homework questions. Here are some insights on self-care. Self-care is any healthy action we take to feel better. Sometimes we use self-care to respond to stressors, triggering events, or when we feel like we are in crisis. Self-care that might work normally may not work as well under very difficult conditions. A tip for dealing with stressors. One suggestion for how to deal with especially difficult situations is to put more time and effort into the things we usually do to make us feel better. Really good self-care is often planned. Planning self-care before we feel unwell has benefits, such as having something to look forward to or helping us not forget self-care. Because of this, it is often included in recovery planning. Here are some examples of self-care. Remembering our boundaries and what we will or will not do. Being of service to others. Writing a gratitude list. Spending time with family and friends. Getting enough sleep. Taking breaks. Stressors, burnout, vicarious trauma, poor time management, and compassion fatigue are common reasons we provide self-care for ourselves. In the group, we work in teams, pairs, or breakout rooms to discuss different examples of self-care that we use each day. In the group, we spend a lot of time talking about recovery planning. We actually break out into breakout rooms or join up in pairs or teams to discuss the recovery plan that we develop in the group. Over a third of our workbook is actually dedicated to the recovery plan the participants will develop. Here are some insights on recovery planning. Recovery planning is self-determined, but often includes friends and family, supporters, or community leaders. Recovery planning is done with the collaboration of individuals involved and utilizes recovery capital. A recovery plan is based on self-determination, identifies strengths of the individual and takes inventory of recovery capital, identifies goals, challenges, action steps, and the date of completion, may involve support from others and a connection to the community resources and leadership, need to be evaluated and measured for progress. Criteria for evaluation should come from the person creating the plan and should be considered before action, if possible. As mentioned before, we talk a lot about mentoring in this group. We talk about SAMHSA's 10 guiding principles of recovery, the stages of change, the stages of wellness and recovery, and the core competencies of a peer support specialist. Here are some insights on mentoring. Mentoring provides an opportunity to be there for a person in a way that supports them in both the best of times and the worst. A good mentor will respect each person's unique approach to recovery. A mentor utilizes self-disclosure in a way that does not compete with, but rather informs an individual of shared experiences. A mentor should be primarily focused on the person they are mentoring, only sharing about themselves when it would benefit the mentee. Mentoring is constant and ongoing and occurs in situations where we present the best or worst aspects of ourselves. We never know just what kind of impact we will have on others. In the first session of the group, we introduced the concepts and fundamentals of recovery that drive this program. As you've just seen, the recovery concepts are self-care, recovery planning, and mentorship. The fundamentals of recovery are honesty, trust, acceptance, hope, personal responsibility, self-advocacy, support, purpose, and self-actualization. In the first session, we also discussed why having breakdowns with some of these concepts and fundamentals can significantly impact our ability to incorporate the rest of the concepts and fundamentals into our lives. Right now, I'm going to explain why the recovery concepts are so important. This group process and other methods of recovery can be hard on us, emotionally, mentally, and physically. Therefore, it is important that we are kind to ourselves and benefit from this process. From the very beginning of an attempt to better ourselves, such as participating in this group, it will be important to maintain the recovery concepts of self-care, recovery planning, and mentorship. Right from the beginning, it is important to have a self-care plan, acknowledge the difficulty of this process, and create positive experiences to look forward to. Develop a recovery plan involving the desired outcome and benefit of this process, and recognize that our participation in this process can either help or hinder the recovery of other participants. I'm going to read some of the inspirational passages we have for the concepts we just discussed. Here's one called Doing Something Nice for Yourself. For those of us who live with mental health struggles, our lives can often feel overwhelmed by adversity. When we are going through our recovery process, we can be so focused on taking care of all the aspects of our lives that we want or need to improve that we often skip enjoying simple pleasures, such as sitting in the sun reading a good book, going to the movies, going on a picnic, or playing with a puppy. For all the hard work we do to nurture our recovery process, we also deserve to laugh and smile because it is so good for our mind, body, and soul. As individuals with mental health struggles, our lives are often very complicated. We are worthy of doing nice things for ourselves, especially while dealing with lives complicated by triggers and frustrations. If we can take some time to do something nice for ourselves, the result is that better days are on the way and better days are here to stay. Here's a passage about recovery planning. It's actually just called recovery planning. Struggling is part of recovery. Therefore, we all experience tough times. If we learn better ways to manage those tough days in which we are triggered or having difficulties, we will be happier and healthier in the long run. If we learn better ways to nurture our recovery process, we can do better and feel better. We can have more control over how we feel when things are tough. If we want things to be better, we must make healthy choices to work toward our better day. I know all of this to be true based on my own personal experiences. The reality is, if we want to feel better, then we need to work at it. When we are struggling, we can work toward making things better. We can choose to help ourselves move through our recovery process. We will succeed. This is a passage about mentorship. It highlights the idea that we might go through difficult times, but if we really want to help other people, we need to struggle to overcome those times. This passage is actually called Sometimes We Struggle. There are days when I feel so bad that I become unable to see things for how they really are. Often my thoughts are twisting and turning throughout a maze of total and brutal negativity, and I find myself gasping for air and grasping for a hand to hold on to. Yet sometimes it seems I am very alone. I ask myself, is this struggle for wellness and recovery worth all my efforts? Why am I dedicating all my hard work and time and effort toward my recovery? What is this recovery that I'm fighting so hard for? It is important for us to think of the big picture. When we work hard to improve our quality of life and strengthen our coping skills, we will experience beneficial results. When we struggle, experience difficulties, and question our recovery, we can and will take back our lives and celebrate our progress and accept that at times we all struggle. Our struggle has meaning, and our recovery is here to stay. So I noticed it's taken a little bit longer to cover the information I wanted to share with you, so we're going to skip the homework questions. I think they're really thoughtful and insightful, but I really want to get to why you should want to be a facilitator for this group. I think the group is great. We cover a lot of information, and I think the passages that Gregorio has created are really inspiring. At the same time, it's important to understand what kind of benefits you can have and how this group can affect your life as a facilitator. It can give us an opportunity to create more meaningful connections with the people we serve. At the same time, we can increase our productivity and live a more meaningful life. Each facilitator participates in the group personally. That means they answer all the homework questions and complete the recovery plan. So when we're facilitating the group, we might sometimes share the answers to the homework questions that we've written ourselves. When we're trying to get ahead in life and working full-time or part-time jobs and juggling other responsibilities like raising children or having time for our loved ones or even having personal time for ourselves, it gets really hard to find a simple solution to add a part-time job to our schedule and our routine. We want to have more resources and success and have a brighter future for ourselves. But a part-time job added into what we already pursue can be like another 20-hour or even greater commitment. Sometimes that's impossible to fit into our routine. So what do we do? And what do we even need to achieve a brighter future? Well, facilitating this group only requires a 3-hour commitment per week. Facilitating 2 groups is a 6-hour commitment. Facilitating 3 is a 9-hour commitment. That might seem like a lot, but we don't really need all that in most cases. In most cases, increasing our productivity or the income that we earn by 10% will increase how much we have for our retirement and our future by almost 33%. Increasing our productivity by 20% usually increases our income in retirement by 45%. This is called the 10% rule and the 20% rule, which is something that we discuss related to growth inside the group. If you're currently working full-time, then completing 2 groups at a time will surpass the 10% rule. If you complete 3 groups at a time, you'll surpass the 20% rule. This means respectively that you'll have 33 to 45% greater wealth in retirement. There's established standards for facilitating groups like this. If you go out to locations and facilities and contract your own rates, you can probably earn well in excess of $25 an hour. Because peer support specialists and recovery specialists, if that's the job that you have, usually make less than $25 an hour. The 10% rule and the 25% rule will have even greater returns than what were previously mentioned. $25 and 10% more time worked each week is well in excess of what we've mentioned. To wrap this up, I think you would have a really great time participating in or facilitating this group. This isn't the only group that we have. We also have a group that focuses on continuing our education while we struggle with different challenges. We also have a group that focuses on recovering from a criminal history. To find out any more about any of these programs, please go to our website, www.communitypeerservices.com.